Hi there, I'm Kimberly Mutar and you are watching Q&A Thursday. Thanks for joining us. So good to be back. I hope that you're having a great day, and if you are ready, I'm ready to dive into some of your questions that you have about parenting, doing school at home, working from home, the right words to say to your kids. This is a safe place for you to ask your questions. I will be me, you be you. There's no judgment here. Feel free to ask any of the questions that you have, and I will do my best to answer it. I promise, if I don't know the answer to your question, I won't pretend I do. But I will do everything I can to help you find some real results for you and your family. So today we are talking about one of my favorite things, and that is doing school at home with the kids. We've got some great questions that have already come in, but if you have any questions in the time during this live, jump on the comments and feel free to ask your questions, and we'll see if we can get those answered as well. So let's get started. Our first question comes from CJ, and CJ asks, how do I do school at home with the kids who are all different ages, all at the same time, bouncing from one child to the next when they all have questions? How do I spread the balance without going crazy? CJ, we are with you on this one. Whether you are, you have been during this COVID-19 staying at home time, been forced to do school at home with your kids, or you have been a homeschooling mom for a while, this question still applies. It doesn't matter, because we are all trying to work with our kids, help them out, balance between all of them. So let's dive into that question. There are ebbs and flows to the education of your children. For example, you may be working with a first-time reader who's working on the sounds that the letters make, who's trying to remember when should they say a short vowel and when should they say a long vowel, or you're working on those sight words. Or you've got a grade 5 student and they would much rather be doing anything else but fractions or ratios or probability or percents, and so that may require a little bit of extra time to sit down and work with them too. You've also had to work on the tech component if you're doing online learning, so hopefully some of those kinks have been ironed out by now, but you've had to cross that hurdle as well. So there are several things I'm going to suggest for you to do to try to help all of your children at the same time with the different ages and not go crazy. We don't want you to go crazy. So first suggestion, you can start with your older child and help them. I encourage you to start with the hardest subject. So maybe that is math, or it could be science, and work with them for the first 10-15 minutes and get them started on their subject. Now, they may not want to start with the hardest subject, but let's teach them a life lesson. We all know that if we're willing to start our day off tackling the hardest task, then we get it done. We're like, wow, yeah, we can take on anything today, right? So teach them that life lesson. So you can start with the older child while the younger ones play. Or you can flop it, whichever works best for you. You can start with the younger child, get them started, and then you can work with the older child. And while you're helping the younger, the older one is working on the easier subjects, like maybe it's spelling, and they can do that on their own. Another thing that you can do if you have a baby or a toddler at home, make good use of those nap times. I mean, you can choose to nap yourself. I give you full permission. But if you can use that time to work with your older children on the harder subjects, that can be like their special one-on-one, uninterrupted time with mommy, and they'll get those harder things accomplished. You can also pair up your children. So pairing an older child with a younger child, maybe you sit around a table and you pair them up that way. So you have an older, younger, older, younger, older, younger, like that. The older child would be able to look over give suggestions to the younger child, or maybe they don't know how to read all the directions on their paper, and the older child could read the directions for them and help them out that way. So you're teaching them to help each other, and you have more than one little teacher that can assist. Sometimes they just have to wait for your help. It's the reality, because we are only one. So what I encourage my girls to do, if I'm helping Jonathan, I have just trained them to have 2 books side by side. And if I say, oh, just hold on a minute, I'll help you in just a moment, then they just open up the other book and they start working on grammar, say, or spelling, and until I'm able to help them. All of these things I have done with my 3 kids. I would love to hear from you who have more than 3 kids. Can you share in the comments below how you are helping more than 3 kids at a time? We would love to learn from you. Also, share in the comments if you've tried some of these suggestions and they're not yet working for you. There is still crazy going on. Maybe we can tweak some of those suggestions to work for your certain situations. Let's remember to take it one day, 1 hour, 1 moment even at a time. If you need a 5-minute break, take it. Just communicate to your kids, you know what, mommy's just needing a 5-minute brain break and to clear her head. If you sense that your kids need a quick break, do it, suggest it. Turn on some fun music and dance real crazy for 5 minutes. Maybe you laugh, maybe you do 20 jumping jacks just right there. Anything that you can do to make them active will clear their head. They'll come back to work ready to be more focused, ready with a good attitude to do their work. Also, give yourself grace. Doing school at home is not about perfection. We are not going for perfection here. What matters most is that you develop in your kids a love for learning, a love for discovering and creating and trying new things. We want lifetime learners here who are willing to look things up if they don't know. If you don't know how to do a math problem, go ahead and look it up together. It's okay to say, woo, I have not done this for like years. We want kids who are willing to work with an I can do this, I won't be so hard on myself kind of attitude. And while I have goals and expectations for my kids as to how much I'd like to see them accomplish in a day, so that we don't get behind in our school year, ultimately it's not the number of pages that they've done or all of the subjects that they've covered. I care more about them enjoying our homeschool experience, loving our time together as a family, and learning to work with a good, excellent work ethic, because that's what they're going to take with them in life. So let's do question number 2. Here it is from Amy. It says, I couldn't do it. I don't have patience. She says, maybe this translates to, where do I find the patience? My heart goes out to all of you who have once said, I could never do homeschool with my kids. I just don't have the patience. Because now with this COVID-19, you've been forced to do school at home with your kids. So I ask you, how is your patience coming along? Tell me in the comments, how is your patience? Where do we find patience? So first I'd like to suggest our attitude or our perspective. I encourage you to speak life over your day. Say it out loud to yourself and to your kids. Say, we are going to have a great morning of school together. When we face something hard, we're going to say, yes, I can do this. We're going to help each other out, and we're going to go for the win today. You can say something like that to seed the thought in their mind. Okay, you know what? Today's going to be great. I might have some hard things in math, but I can do this. There are some declarations in the front of each of the Speak Life Badge Sticker Award books, so I encourage you to use those declarations. Oh, there's also some just for your kids, so these are for you, Mom, Dad, grandparents, and then these are for your kids. Let me just find it for a minute. So they can declare that at school or now with their school at home. So you can say, I'm a great parent, I teach, I communicate easily with my kids. You can speak those words out that will help you with your attitude, your perspective. Your kids can say, I love learning. Every day I get smarter. I have an amazing brain that's quick to understand and able to remember long term. I understand math and I'm good with numbers. I encourage you to use those declarations with your kids. Also, be prepared, whatever that looks like for you, to be prepared. Lay out their books, maybe open up to the next pages. Maybe Sunday before your school week begins, you look over and you just make like a chart or a list of the pages that you want them to accomplish in the week. When I am able, I like to look ahead in their math and just see if there's any questions that they might struggle with. And then I'll write little notes, encouraging notes, or I'll write a little extra, hey, don't forget to do this step, if you have the chance to do that. You can get out any supplies for crafts, science, that sort of thing. The more you are prepared, the more patient you can be during your school time. Take quick breaks. I already mentioned that. They say that a child's attention span is 2 to 3 minutes as per their age in number of years. So for instance, my daughter is 10, so she can sit and focus. Her attention span is for 30 minutes. My 5-year-old can focus for 15 minutes, and that's without any learning challenges. So I would just encourage you to make lessons really short, and that can help them not feel like they're sitting for so long. This is taking forever, and when they have those kind of attitudes, that can work on your patience. Also, eliminate any distractions. Put your phone away, put it on silent, block out that 2 to 3 hours of school time, and that's all you do. Keep it uninterrupted. I know this is challenging, especially if you're trying to work from home, especially if you have pets or your husband's at home. If we are distracted and we're trying to do all the things, that our kids mirror us, so they can get easily distracted if we are. And it can be really frazzling, and it can be trying on your patience if you're being pulled from all different directions. The other thing I want to say, and I've mentioned it before, is to give yourself grace. We're not going for perfection here. Your 2 to 3 hours of school each day doesn't have to look perfect. Don't look at what anybody else is doing. What's right for you and your kids, and what helps you stay patient. All right, we have a third question, and that is this comes from Mandy. So how do I balance getting my checklist of daily school tasks done without becoming a slave to a schedule, tasks, or learning outcomes? For example, when your child is enthusiastically working on a short story, but you want to get to math or science or art, and you want to check off all those subjects for the day. Great question. I can understand the need to check things off your to-do list, because I love to-do lists. Especially when you've planned and prepared for all of those things, you want to get them done, right? So I encourage you in a few things, Mandy. You can start your school time with the most important subjects, which would be your math and your reading, your grammar, because your kids need those 3 core subjects. Spelling, that sort of thing. In terms of science, art, geography, history, that you could leave for the second part of your school day, so that if it takes you a little bit longer, that's okay. You can just start with where you left off tomorrow. If your child is enthusiastically working on a story, especially writing, I say let her have at it. Don't interrupt her. That's amazing that she was so engaged in what she was doing. Don't stop the creativity. I mean, if you have to go to like a work Zoom call and you need to set them up with a movie and some snacks, okay, then maybe you need to interrupt her. Or if you have a dentist appointment, you know, maybe you have to interrupt her there because you don't want to be late. But if you have the freedom to flow throughout your day, don't interrupt the creativity. Just let it go. In fact, that's what happened this morning. My oldest wanted to write a story using her spelling words, and we were just finishing up with Jonathan's school. We were ready to do our Bible. They were all sitting there, and she's like, oh, but hold on. And she was only like 2 sentences in. And I thought of you, Mandy, and I thought, okay, we'll just let this go, and let's see what happens. And she wrote the funniest story. By the end, we were all laughing and cheering for her story. And the others just happily sat and colored their page for the Bible story that we were going to do and waited for her to finish. And so I hope that encourages you. In terms of doing the art, maybe you want to set up a little corner if it's a safe, like if you're okay with there being some craft mess in this corner, maybe you can set that up, or a table where craft supplies are easily accessible. And you can kind of let art time be free-flowing whenever they want to. They just come and create something, and then that's your art. I mean, I did forget to mention that Mandy shared that her kids are in grade 1 and JK, which is another, I want you to understand the reason why I'm suggesting that maybe the art, science, geography, Mandy doesn't have to feel as pressured to get it all done in one day. Because the reality is that learning about the Pilgrims or learning about friction in science is going to come back around. Learning the names of all the provinces and the U.S. states and how to spell them correctly, it's going to come back around. If they don't master it now, it's okay. They'll get to it again next year. So I just want to encourage you with that broader perspective. I know that the traditional school system requires some learning targets, and that's a good thing. We want to make sure that our kids are ready for the next grade level. But if it comes to fractions, if it comes to multiplication, if it comes to percents, they're going to learn that again the next year. So if they haven't gotten it 100% now, that's okay. Don't put pressure on them. They'll come back around to it, and maybe next year it'll click for them. Even if your curriculum offers a 4 to 5 day schedule for your school, I encourage you to do what's right for your kids. You don't have to stick exactly to that 4 or 5 day schedule. You do what is good for your kids, your mental, your patience capacity. Love the moments that you have with your kids. Let this time at home with your kids be something they look back and cherish. Not this gotta stick to this to-do list, let's get it all done. I don't want you to feel bogged down by that that checklist, because it's not freeing. I'm not saying just throw it out the window and wing it. You don't want to do that either. But the checklist is your peace of mind. You've organized, especially if you are like me. I really like to be organized. But I encourage you to love your moments with your kids, whatever that looks like and feels right for you. Also, I understand that with online learning, there are certain assignments that your child needs to complete each day. So I know that there's that requirement as well. Shout out, by the way, to all the amazing teachers who are faithfully helping their students to learn online while overseeing their own children's education at home. You are doing 2 things at once, so that's amazing. I acknowledge you. My sister is one of them, and she is rocking it. Okay, so Mandy did have a second part to her question, which she gives this side note. I sometimes do this with Speak Life badges and referring to the checklist. I get more focused on checking off that my child got a badge instead of being present in the moment. And if you are not sure, if you are new to Speak Life badges and you are unsure what Mandy is talking about in terms of our badges, each sticker award book includes sticker badges so that you can give to your kids as you speak words of life. So Mandy, I am thrilled to hear, you bless my heart to hear that it is a priority for you to make sure that your kids are receiving their Speak Life badges and that you are being intentional with your words, that you're speaking life over them. I commend you for being so intentional. Giving Speak Life sticker badges and learning to be present in the moment will come more naturally to you as you practice it. Like if you have that freedom of that time chunk of your school, that's your only focus right then and there. And I want to encourage you with this. You know how your kids, they're playing and they just come up and they give you this hug and then they run off and play again. Or maybe they're outside and they bring you like that big bundle of dandelions. Or that they just climb up on your lap, just make their way there on your lap. You know how that feeling of affirmation is and you're like, this is just like the best thing in the world. You know, I was just made to be a mom or a dad. That's how I want you to think about giving your sticker badge to your kids. Just that, you know what? Wow, well done. You have been working so faithfully and diligently. Let's give them a badge. Or maybe, hey, thanks for cleaning up. I really appreciated your help. Give them a badge. Just that spontaneous, wow, you really blessed. Or if there's been a really challenging part of their school and you just want to say, even if they haven't mastered it yet, you want to speak into them that they can, that there's potential there. You believe in them to get these multiplication facts memorized, right? Yes, just give them a badge. Just that, wow, let's do it. That's what I want to encourage, because that same feeling of getting that hug, that spontaneous hug from your kids is what you're going to bless them with when you give them a Speak Life badge. I hope that helps. The other thing I wanted to encourage you with the Speak Life badge is that you're not yet seeing in terms of behavior or character growth that you know that your kids can clean up after themselves, or you know that your child can choose a good attitude even though something's really hard, or you know that they really can follow directions right away. Give them the Speak Life badge before you see that behavior in them. Speak into them. I believe in you to do this. You are strong. Okay? Just like you're really good at working on your hockey, like getting all those pucks into the net and getting around the other players, I know you can give that same focus, that same commitment, that same drive to your math, and then give them the Speak Life badge. Remember that you have wisdom. You have the solutions that you need for your kids. I believe in you. You are more than enough. Don't compare yourself to anyone else. Do what's right for you and your children in the moment. If you don't know what's right for them, ask them. Help them to feel that they are in control of their learning and that they have a part to play in it. Have questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can email me at kimberly@speaklifebadges.com. I want to help you win at home. If you haven't yet seen Tuesdays at Home with the Kids, it was our first episode of At Home with the Kids. We talked about how to help your kids to sit still while they're doing their work. So if that tries your patience at home, go ahead and watch that on Speak Life Badges Facebook page. Next week, we are going to be answering your questions about how to motivate your kids to do their work even when they don't want to? Great question. Also, we'll be talking about should you give rewards? And what do you say when they always ask, did I do good? Did I do good? Did I do good? Okay, so join us next week for our Q&A Thursday. We'll see you same time, same place, 1 o'clock on Facebook and Instagram Live. I hope you have a most wonderful rest of the week. Take care.